Welcome back, everyone. If you're the kind of focused learner who just loves dissecting why certain ideas lodge themselves so deeply in our cultural consciousness, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're diving straight into our explainer on the anatomy of the creepy music box.
Because think about it, it raises this really fantastic paradox. Why exactly do music boxes terrify us so much? I mean, how does this incredibly innocent, delicate children's toy, something literally designed to soothe and comfort us, become the ultimate, spine-tingling soundtrack to our absolute worst cinematic nightmares? It's a brilliant transformation of an everyday object, and we are going to break down exactly how and why this happens.
To really set the mood here, listen to this visceral thought from the haunting tale, A Blackwood Estate, featured on Whispers After Midnight. It goes, "There is a moment, just before madness truly begins, when the mind still tries to save itself, because once you accept that something unnatural is happening, you also accept that reality can betray you." That perfectly captures the suspenseful tone of our topic, right? A music box playing on its own without anyone winding it, it's that exact moment of reality just breaking.
All right, let's jump straight into part one, the ultimate horror cliché.
So there's this brilliant juxtaposition that gets heavily discussed in online horror communities regarding this trope. On one side, you've got this Victorian innocence, childhood lullabies, delicate craftsmanship, a real sense of purity. But on the flip side, you have supernatural evil and demonic attachments. And let's be honest, Victorian objects often carry a slight kind of uncanny feel to modernize anyway. When you mingle the innocence of a twinkling toy with a dark, eerie environment, and then add the terrifying inevitability of that mechanical gear slowly winding down, boom, you get a perfect storm of dread.
Moving right along to part two, cursed objects in pop culture.
If we look at the Conjuring universe, the music box functions so brilliantly as a narrative device. Take the Parent Family case, for example. It acts as a literal mirrored gateway. Lorraine Warren uses it and physically sees the spirit of a boy named Rory right there in its reflection. And the lore actually expands in the comic book series. There's a grieving mother named Nicole who uses a similar box just to drown out the dead silence of her apartment. But the artifact acts as a conduit, driving her into this intense demonic trance that ends in a horrific murder. So it's not just a prop, guys, it is a literal doorway.
And this brilliant weaponization of the trope, it extends right into video games too. For those of you who play Phasmophobia, you know the music box is a very real, very dangerous mechanic. First, you place it near the ghost and listen to it sing so you can reveal its location. But here's the catch. If you stand within 3 meters while it plays, your sanity drains incredibly fast. If the ghost touches it, or your sanity hits 0, it triggers a fatal, cursed hunt. It's basically a high-risk, high-reward game of chicken with a haunted children's toy.
Let's pivot back to the visceral storytelling of Whispers After Midnight for a second to see just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Take the Blackwood Estate restoration. In this story, a craftsman named Gideon tries to fix an impossibly corroded music box, but instead of normal gears, he uncovers ecclesiastical Latin invocations etched right into the brass with dried 19th century blood, and beneath the resonance panel, human ribs, children's bone. The story uses the physical, mechanical dissection of the music box as this incredibly powerful metaphor for uncovering buried, ancient evil.
Which brings us to part three, real-world phantom melodies.
Because these creepy mechanisms aren't just confined to scripts and code, they actually have a surprisingly rich history in urban legends and alleged paranormal events. Take the actual Parent Family home that inspired The Conjuring. To this very day, the real music box from that case sits securely locked away in the Warrens Occult Museum. Now, quick caveat for our explainer here. We aren't here to take a side on whether ghosts are actually real, but we are absolutely here to impartially report on the fascinating cultural impact of these artifacts. And that impact is massive, stretching all the way to places like the Lauderdale Mental Asylum.
Just look at the tragic legend of Melbourne, Australia's Larundel Asylum. Built in the 1930s and eventually abandoned in the 1990s, local folklore speaks of a young girl who spent years living on the 3rd floor. Her only personal possession? A music box. Today, even though the building is a completely dilapidated, fenced-off ruin, urban explorers and locals continuously report hearing the faint, distinct melody of a music box echoing from that empty 3rd floor late at night. Gives it chills just thinking about it.
All right, part four, the uncanny valley of sound.
So we've all heard of the visual uncanny valley, right? Like with creepy robots or weird CGI. But there is an auditory uncanny valley too. When a poorly wound or damaged music box plays, it produces this warped, slowing, or dissonant melody. It sounds almost, but not quite, normal to human ears.
Our brains instantly recognize the pattern of the lullaby, but the pitch and the timing are just subtly wrong. And that specific cognitive dissonance triggers a really profound unease in us. This actually beautifully illustrates a concept presented by media theorist Wolfgang Ernst known as Eigensight. It's a term referring to a machine's own inherent temporal horizon, or basically its own sense of time. When we hear a broken music box playing at a snail's pace, we immediately think it's malfunctioning. But Ernst suggests it isn't malfunctioning at all. It is simply operating flawlessly on its own alien timeline, dictated purely by its mechanical governor, and completely indifferent to human expectations.
So why does this matter? Well, the crucial point is how this affects what we actually hear. In a really interesting paper from the Journal of Media Studies, an author analyzes a lethargic music box playing the song Edelweiss. Because of the machine's Eigensight, the recognizable, comforting message of the melody is totally stripped away. The spaces between the notes become way too long. The human brain can no longer naturally connect them into a song, transforming the whole experience into jarring individual strikes of pure, unsettling noise.
And that leads us perfectly into Part 5, Timekeeping and Dead Media. You see, the music box didn't actually start out as a toy. Believe it or not, it originated from massive European bell towers that used rotating barrels to strike giant bells. In the 18th century, Swiss watchmakers brilliantly miniaturized these massive systems into pocket watches and small boxes. By 1885, we had the very first disc music boxes. But progress is ruthless, isn't it? By the late 1890s, the invention of the phonograph turned the music box into obsolete, dead media almost overnight.
Which brings us to the profound connection behind it all. As historian Lewis Mumford noted, the clock, not the steam engine, is the key machine of the modern industrial age. Now you might be wondering, how does that connect? Well, the centrifugal governor that regulates a music box's speed actually inspired James Watt's steam engine. The music box is intimately tied to the mechanical clock and our ingrained industrialized expectations of perfectly ordered time. When a music box slows down and distorts, it isn't just making a creepy noise. It is fundamentally challenging our human control over time itself.
So, from a simple horror movie cliché to cursed items in games and lore, all the way down to high-level media theory about industrialization, it's a fascinating journey. And it leaves us with a truly provocative final thought to wrap up today's explainer. The next time you hear a music box winding down in the dark, whose time is it actually keeping? Yours or the machine's? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I will catch you in the next one.